welcome to this Q&A live this Tuesday evening. A little bit cold and wet in the UK, but I'm excited for today because all the way from Texas, USA, I believe, we've got Tim, aka the Bass Resonator, with us to talk to us about a little bit about his journey and his channel. So, Tim, I hope you can hear me. Hope everybody else in chat can hear me as well. And if it's your first time to these, we try and do them every Tuesday just to get to know the great artists in our community. And I'd definitely say I've been looking through some of your videos, Tim, and some of the stuff you create is amazing. So first of all, congratulations for that. I love looking at your videos. But yeah, talk to us a little bit about you and your channel.
My channel actually started quite a while ago, but it was never called Bass Resonator. It was just me. And I just retired December 31st. Was a choir director for 28 years and in a school. And so I had stuff on there from my choir things, you know, showing them off for my students and doing some of my bike rides where I had a camera stuck on my helmet going across, and I had 70 followers. And then I started getting into resin art about almost 3 years ago. My kids gave me a thing called an aero garden, which is a hydroponic garden. During COVID and stuff, you know, they said, you need to do something because teaching choir during COVID, that was
Not the best.
No.
Did you manage to still do it though with Zoom and Teams and things like that?
I did, but when they all turned their cameras on at once or their microphones, massive chaos. And so I would send them assignments. I'd send them a link with, here's your listening file, record yourself, send me your recording with your face and everything. And then I would do these virtual choir things and have everybody on the screen. Hours of editing to get 20 minutes of a concert. And so they sent me this, they got me this aero garden for Father's Day. And I started growing plants and I thought, well, let me start putting them, get some of these flowers and press them and put them into resin. And then one of my former students said, you need to show us how you're doing that because it's really pretty. And that was last March. I had 70 followers on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
The end of April, I hit 500 just because of people interested in it. And so I had a giveaway thing. Well, not a giveaway. It was a challenge to the person who was the 500th subscriber. She's from the UK, Amanda Togood. And she challenged me to do a project, and I did it. And then I got to 1,000 sometime in the summer. Yeah. And then I got to 1,500 Halloween. It's crazy how stuff just took off. I really like doing flowers, and I really like doing I'm not gonna say wildlife, but I live in a major flyway of butterflies and insects. Yeah. They're going to Mexico, like the monarch butterfly. They go from up north, up in Canada, all the way down into Mexico, and they fly right through here. Well, they get hit by cars, so yeah, I got to do something with them, you know? So I preserve them. So I do different things like that. We have a lot of wildflowers here in Texas that are unique to this. Oh, thanks a lot, Wendy.
I know you'd like to see that comment. I like that one.
I saw a couple of them, and I'm like, oh no. And Lula said, I better do an Arnold impersonation. You don't know me very well, Lula. So yeah, that's about as far as I'm going to go. Get to the chopper. But I like pressing, and then I got into pressing flowers because I had this flower press from when I was in junior high, and still have it. But 3D flowers are no longer 3D. And I wanted to, hey, there we go, Laura. So I started investigating different ways to dry flowers, and I thought, I'll go into trying to find a freeze dry machine. No, that was out of the budget. Good grief.
Yeah, they're about 2,500, I think, the cheapest ones I've seen.
Yeah, and then so I got into the silica gels. Wise Dry, I think, is the name of the company that I use, and I'm able to dry the state flower, which you're not supposed to pick when it's on somebody's land, unless it's
Oh,
your
right,
home.
okay.
You're not. I mean, there's all kinds of laws and stuff, but I can grow them. So then I have friends that grow them too. So we call the bluebonnet, and so I've dried some of those. I have a bunch of different wild flowers that I grow here in around my house, and I not press them. I dry them out. I do press some, but so
No, I've seen some of the videos, and I saw that. I think you did a video for the 1500th subscriber as well, where you sent out a little package with some. I think it was InterResin molds, if memory serves correct.
And InterResin, yeah, InterResin flowers. Yeah, InterResin gave me. Lula said, just ask, and I thought, okay, what can they do to turn me down? But I'm really not one into getting rejected. So I was like, oh man, I've never done anything like this before. But InterResin's like, yeah, we'll donate something for the 1500. How close are you? And I'm like, three away. And they're like, okay, it's in the mail. So it showed up, and then Jen Resiner's Poorhouse up in, I think, in Minnesota, long ways from here. I sent that plus some different wildflowers that I have dried here. So she was really appreciative about that. So yeah.
No, it's amazing. And actually, I did a bit of research, obviously, on your channel before you came on. And obviously, I know we've spoken in Discord a couple of times when we share work and things like that. But it's amazing to see the growth of your channel, because I looked at the start, like you said, 10 years ago. And then since you've gone on to resin in the last 12 months or so, it's just flown, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's taken off. Yeah. People didn't care about watching my dog fetch, a frisbee, or watching a bike ride, but they really like me doing stuff with that.
When I get my dog in an intro, it tends to get more views. I don't know about you, but I always try and get, well, I don't try, but if I do like an intro where I'm sat on the settee, the next minute I've got Reggie there in my face, and those ones seem to get more views. I think people prefer Reggie to me, but there we go. No, Lisa's just saying that she would watch the dog as well. But one of the greatest things for me is the whole community in resin. It's so friendly. And I think I've been part of other communities before where I've been into different hobbies and things like that. But I think everybody in resin wants to help each other, which is rare to find, where it's just about supporting each other. And it's like, don't get me wrong, you can spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week responding to people's messages, as I'm sure you get loads as well, and answering the same questions over and over again. But one of the greatest things for me about a tutorial on YouTube is you can just direct people to that video. Once it's there, somebody asks you how to do it, just go to this video and watch that. And hopefully it explains it better by them seeing somebody do it, because different people learn in different ways. And I'm one of those that I can sit there and read a book, but I don't learn best by doing that. I learn best by watching somebody else do it. And I think that's the amazing thing with such a big community now. And it seems to be growing to me. I think every month or so, there's new people coming in, new YouTube channels popping up, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah. The camaraderie that we have, even gigantic channels like Julie Cuts, she's the one that put my name out in the map, and I didn't even have a YouTube channel at that point, because I did this angelfish, and I had painted or dusted the mold itself the way I remember my angelfish when I used to raise fish. Anyway, when I had a hobby of fish tank.
We share that hobby as well. I used to have marine fish.
Yeah, but I tried to make it as natural as possible. She threw my name out there, and then all these people are like, hey, when are you going to? I'm like, oh, man. So, yeah, now I'm doing a video a day plus a short, or I try to.
Thanks for that, Dave. Thanks for the compliment.
So yeah, and I mean, she's got what, 500,000 viewers, and she
Yeah.
talked to lowly little me, you know, from South Texas.
But you know, I
Way
watch a
South
lot of
Texas.
Julie. I watch a lot of Julie's videos actually, and to be fair, I learned most of what I know about blooms and 3D blooms specifically from watching Julie.
Yeah,
And again, don't get me wrong. There's a couple of different resins that she uses that I don't have access to, but you
right,
can still adapt it. And what I like about it is, to me, when I watch Julie's videos, it's just natural. It's just somebody enjoying what they're doing the hobby, and putting it out there to, I suppose, entertain people, but also to teach people, which is amazing.
right, yeah. And you know, I've bought some of her molds. In fact, this is what got me started with, because I live in an area. I'm 70 miles from the coast, the Gulf Coast, and
Okay.
there's a big turtle community. Turtle, that sounds bad. A community there, turtle hatching for
Yeah.
the Ridley's turtle,
Is
and
that
this
before they
little,
sort of go off into the sea?
yeah, and this looks very similar, but I did stuff differently. Instead of painting the shell, I took abalone shell pieces
Right. Okay.
and put them on there. And but this was before I knew anything about getting those glass eyes that they use in taxidermy and stuff.
Yeah.
So I paint the eyes. I'm no good at painting, so I'll just tell you right now. And painting to keep it, you know, staying within the lines after the thing is already done. No.
It's
So
difficult.
I bought her gigantic. I've got it on my lap, and it's a big one.
Oh,
The
I've
big,
seen it actually on one of her
big
videos. It's
turtle.
like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. And I found an abalone shell that's its whole back,
Wow.
but I made it into a lamp. It's a
Oh,
nightlight.
wow. I like that.
Yeah. So, and I got the eyes, the glass eyes that make it look really realistic.
Well, with my eyes, I've been playing with UV resin and making my own, and things like that. But the amount of hassle with making the UV eyes, I'm actually thinking about just buying packets of the 8mm eyes, because they look great. Once you've UV'd them into the resin, it looks natural and part of the piece.
Yep. Yep. And
There
now
we
the
go.
light.
Everybody's saying that's awesome and incredible, Tim. So well done. A lot of appreciation for the turtles. My lamp project that I'm working on at the minute is my ostrich
Oh, I've
egg.
been watching that. I've been watching that. That's really cool.
It's just too cold at the minute for me to finish it, because I have to do it outside, because if you've never carved one, the shell goes everywhere, and it smells like burnt hair. It's a really bad odor, even with your respirator on. So I'm only doing it outdoors. But the thing is, for me, I think I'm almost there with the carving, because originally I was going to do all of the designs sort of 3D, but actually, I don't know if you can see on the camera very well, but that bit there is the 3D. But I
Yeah.
like leaving the natural shell
Yeah.
with that pattern. So I'm thinking now I can just sand it all back, give it a flood coat, and then put a lamp under it.
Yeah. That looks really cool.
But it's 3 days of resin to get the resin in. It's 38 ounces of resin, which for me is quite a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And 3 days of carving so far, so it's not a quick project.
Well, that big turtle weighs 5 pounds.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous amount of resin in there. If you know anything about Texas, we are proud. Okay.
Yeah.
We're
I've
proud
heard
of our
that,
state.
actually.
We're proud of our state. I've got Texas things all over the place, including you. So there's this company in Canada called oh my goodness, I forgot the name. Starts with a C. I'll remember it after a bit. But they made this giant Texas mold.
Right. Oh, wow.
And I've got state flowers in there.
Yeah.
Blue bonnets. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, the blue bonnets
Yeah,
are
that's lovely.
right here. And then blue bonnets also come in a red variety, so that's right here. And then there's this thing called an Indian paintbrush. Yeah,
Okay.
Texas loud and proud, definitely. Yeah.
So what
And
do
they're
you
still
do
in the playoffs.
what do you do with your art then? Do you sell it, or what do you do with it?
Yeah, that's a biggie. My wife is like, "What are you gonna do with it? It's everywhere." I even made a bathroom completely resin. You know, it's the
Wow.
floors resin. I got artwork all over. I did the countertop. It's a beach theme.
Yeah.
She goes, "What are you gonna do with this?" And I said, "I don't know how to sell it. I don't want to do certain, I'm not going to throw names out, but there are certain stores, online stores, they charge you commission. Plus, if they put your artwork and some other store sees it and they jump on, then they charge you double commission. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
I don't like that concept. So I am still trying to figure out how to market my stuff. I have a very good friend. In fact, um, the video that dropped today, that coffee clock that I made,
Yeah, I saw
coffee
that.
theme clock. Um, she's one of my former students. She graduated in 2013. Um, yeah, Central Texas is still a long ways away from. I'm a long ways away from everything except Mexico, because Mexico's like 3 miles south of me here. But she said she works for a big restaurant chain in the United States here, and she's on the national thing and does training for all over. But she knows how to market stuff, and she's one of my biggest go-getters and stuff. And so I lean on her. She said, go to this craft show, go to this, and I go and I sell $200 worth of stuff, but I still got bins of stuff that I gotta.
That's one of the things I'm struggling with at the minute. So I've been into resin for about 8 months, probably not long. But the last 6 months I've really been into resin, and because of that I've been trying to create at least one, if not 10 things every day. And you don't realize how quickly it builds up. And literally my whole living room, as well as the workstation behind me, and yours looks amazing, by the way, behind you.
You would not say it if you walked in. There's about 5 feet of workspace in this 400 square foot office area. So,
but the thing I'm struggling with is
4.5 feet high, because I like working here. I don't like bending over.
No, that's probably a good thing. That's why I've got my chair as well, so I can just do it in my chair, sort of thing. But selling wise, I've struggled, and ever since I've started, I've had lots of compliments on like the Petrie effect jewelry that I did at the start, some of my canvases, and now more into the 3D blooms, coasters, all of those sorts of things, which I think are quite marketable. I think they're the sorts of things that people, when they think of resin, that's pretty much what you think of. And a lot of people, I think, in the general public that don't know how to create these things often see them and go, oh, that's lovely, I'd like to buy that. But I've tried eBay, I've tried Etsy, and more. I've tried Facebook Marketplace. I find people just don't want to pay a premium for handmade goods. And what really worries me is I look at sites like, and I will name them, Etsy, as the biggest sort of homemade marketplace. And I had a quick look on there a couple of nights ago, and around about a quarter of the products that I found on there, I found on Temu. And I think people are buying from Temu, putting it on places like Etsy as handmade for knockdown prices because they've not had to put any work into it. They've just got it shipped across. And people think that should be the norm. And they don't sort of realize that actually some of the artworks that people do in resin might take a week. It might take 7 days of different layers. It's like the Galaxy Effect bowl I did the other week. That was actually all in probably about 6 days worth of work in the different layers to get that effect. But if I put that on somewhere like Facebook Marketplace, people wouldn't want to pay more than $20, which doesn't even cover the cost of the resin when it's 25 ounce, a 25 ounce bowl. And I think that's what, as an artist, I suppose it frustrates me. You just want to grab people and say, no, look, this is how much time went into it. But I think that's what needs to change a little bit, is people's perception, rather than mass produced in a factory from China, actually going, do you know what, I'd rather pay a craftsman or somebody that's taken the time and effort to create something. But I think that's just a gradual thing where we've all got to try and educate people.
Yeah. Well, where I live, being right on the border, they have these flea markets that you can buy knockoff stuff, and you can buy stuff super cheap. People steal from somebody else and they take it down there and sell it, and nobody wants to spend more than $5 on anything. Well, I'm not selling this for $5. No.
It's cost you more than that just in resin.
Well, it's 48 ounces of resin in that one. But I had a friend, well, son, my wife has taught me, our son, our second son, and his wife live in the state of Washington, which is 2,500 miles from anywhere. To get out of Texas driving, it takes a day. There's no way. Yeah, to Dallas, it's over 500, almost 600 miles from here. Houston is about the same going the other way. El Paso is even further away. So to get to my son is 2 Texases away. Yeah. So, but we went up there and we stayed. Their house was a big mess, and so we stayed in a Airbnb. And the lady that ran that, I need her to be my marketer. She says you need to get out of the valley. Where I live in the Rio Grande Valley. Yeah. Rio Grande, excuse me. Let me get original here. But she says you need to get out of there and get to places where there are bigger markets. Go to Central Texas, up in Fredericksburg, San Antonio, maybe Austin, where there are a lot of these artisans, and people will see that and they'll go, "Oh yeah, we need that." I'm really wanting to get into a market down on the island. We call it the island. South Padre Island is about 70 miles from here. And it's a big place for tourists. But that's where the turtles are. And if I could get my turtles in there, I know they would go. I know they'd go. But to get there and to get in, like I contacted them and they said, well, it's a waiting list. I'm like, what do you do? So, but now that I'm retired, that lady that was up in Washington, she goes, you need to travel. Just pack it all up. Go on a tour of some of these places. It's got cold here though. It's 40. For us, that's like nuts.
I think it was minus
2 days ago it was 95. Okay. Yeah. I'm used to that, but not 40.
But again, with your resin, you don't want it too warm either when you're traveling, because it can go flexible again, can't it? Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of comments going off at the minute with regards to different craft shows, artisan shows, things like that. And the bigger craft shows that I've seen that actually seem to be for art rather than a jumble sale or a car boot sale or something like that, they're expensive. So some of them are like £200 just for a 6-foot table. Yeah. And if you then don't sell £200 worth, well, probably at least £300 worth of stock to cover it, then you've lost money. And that's again what puts me off a little bit, because I think part of the problem with some of the community is that they're being nice, but they undervalue their pieces. I've seen loads of people with amazing pieces and where coasters, they're charging like £2 or £3. Yeah. Just to sort of get rid of them. But the problem is that's what everybody then thinks the price should be. Right. But I think it's just one of those things that until you have a regular customer base that knows your art, knows your work, and wants to keep recommending it, I think that's the struggle for everybody. It's about finding the right community that wants and respects your pieces as art, not as mass produced. Yep. And me being a type Z personality, like type A people get out there and they do that. Man, I'm not that at all. I don't, if I go to a party, I'm in a corner hiding. I'm not, I mean, I don't mind talking to people, but wow, I'm just super shy that way, even though it might not come across that way, but I'm not in my comfort zone when I get to big crowded areas. Somebody like yourself with those bassy tones and obviously the choir side of things as well, that might be interesting to try on something like Instagram and try an Instagram sort of reel, if you like, to sell your product, because you can do that with your singing in the background. It could just attract an audience to it, no other advert for resin would. So it'd be quite unique, that. Mm-hmm. But I think that's always the biggest struggle for me. So do you want to tell me about sort of your biggest project? What was that turtle, your biggest project that you've done so far? Actually, my biggest project was my bathroom, which was my 1,000th subscriber. I said, challenge me with something. And they said, do some artwork, like they were talking like you could put in a frame or something, hang it on the wall. I did the whole bathroom.
You know, I did the floors, I did the sink. So, but my biggest piece is probably the one that I did for my 500 subscriber.
Okay.
And it's I was walking my dog, and people just put stuff out by the sidewalk for the trash people to pick up, or if somebody's interested in it, just pick it up and take it. Like the other day, I saw a little table, an end table, and I thought, man, I should stop, but like I don't want to carry that home walking the dog too. You know, that'd be kind of looking weird. But I found this shelf, good wood, but it had laminate stuff on there. It was. So I started sanding it off, and I thought, man, this wood's not real pretty.
Yeah.
It would be good to do resin on it. So the thing is, well, you can't see my hands. It's 4.5 feet long and 9 inches wide, but I made the phases of the moon on there, and I laminated I put resin down on the whole thing, and yeah, you'll have to see that one sometime.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up actually, because interestingly, my channel started as wood carving. So before I got into resin, I've always, past 6 years or so, I've been into wood carving with like a Dremel, not with the knives. I prefer it with a Dremel because you can take more material off and things like that.
Yeah.
And I had a similar sort of habit where, again, I don't just like carving wood, I like wood projects.
Yeah.
So I would be driving around and I'd suddenly see a pile of pallets, and I'm like, right, they're coming home with me. I don't care what I need to do. They're getting in the boot. It's free wood. I'm getting it home. But again, you don't realize with those, a pallet probably took me half an hour to disassemble, take all the nails out so that I could actually then use it as wood.
Yep. I do a little bit of Dremel work on wood. I don't, you know, my brother is a real artisan when it comes to carving things, but he makes one of a kind, and he's only going to make one. He's not going to make any more. And he makes them for his grandkids. Like he made this rocking horse. Wow. Amazing. But there's only one. If anyone has Maine. Okay.
I don't know what that means, but there we go.
Maybe
no,
I think
it's one of those things where it's very difficult until you get into it, and I think it's a bit like resin. People perceive it to be a lot more difficult than it actually is, and all you've got to do is take your time, because the more time you take on a piece of wood, all you've got to do is keep taking little bits away until you've got the picture in your head in that piece of wood. And I think that's what people don't necessarily realize when they first start with carving wood, is they think it's all about carving the design in. It's not. It's about taking the rest of the wood away so that you leave what you want there. And I think as soon as you sort of change that in your head, you can start getting better with it. And then one of the things I hate, but you have to do it with woodwork, it's the sanding. It makes such a difference.
Yep. Yeah, my brother is really good with carving. He uses saws, he uses chisels, he does everything. I do the small things, you know, like a clock. I did the shape of my wife's family's from the state of Michigan. Well, actually, I was born there, but I'm like a kangaroo. I was born out of pocket because when I was 6 days old, I made it to Texas. My parents were up visiting family and stuff, and I happened to come along.
Yeah, there we go. There's the explanation. Maine Coons are very large cats, and Tim's voice puts them to sleep. I think that's meant in a positive way, though, Tim. I think it means a nice, calm, soothing voice that people like to listen to.
Yeah.
But no, I think the beauty with resin, though, for me, compared to woodwork, is it's once you get the techniques, you can pretty much create whatever you want to put your mind to. And yes, you can with woodwork and things like that. But woodwork, again, you need to tend to have more tools for a start to be able to do the more complex pieces, which cost a lot of money. Then the wood itself is usually quite expensive. And I know resin is as well. But let's say you want to do a nice sort of end grain sort of table or something like that, you're talking £500 just for the wood.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong with that project,
wood has really skyrocketed the last couple of years. Yeah.
And what I try and do with my wood projects now is find cheap ways of doing it. So In fact, you can probably just see it behind me there. That was my wave sort of charcuterie board that I've got up there. And I did that because I saw a video on YouTube of somebody doing a burnt wood effect, and I love the effect. So I just got some cheap CLS timber, which is the cheapest you can get, which is meant for stud work. I glued it all together to get the shape I wanted, cut it out, and then got my blowtorch to it. And it looks amazing close up. It's like alligator scales, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then obviously I've added the resin waves on it now, and it's one of my favorite pieces. But I always look for cheap ways or ways of, I suppose, upscaling things. So my current coffee table in my living room is one of those old mango wood tables that you often see people buy. It's like Indian type wood. And then they'll use it for a few years and throw it out or put it on Craigslist, as you'd call it in the States. Yeah. So I picked it up for, I think it was £20. And I spent 3 days sanding all of the old stain off. And then I've actually wood burnt a design of a giraffe and different leaf motifs. So to me, that table you couldn't buy in a shop for £200-300 now. And that's the amazing thing, that just by spending time on something, you can make it a lot more valuable than it was. And you're using a resource that otherwise would have just been disposed of.
Right. Yeah.
So
I remembered that company in Canada. It's Crafted Elements. Crafted Elements. They're the ones that made this gigantic Texas mold. They do a lot of plastic templates, so you can carve around and, you know, you draw it, cut it out with a saw, and then use your router to go.
Just see we can creations there. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've recently cut my finger on resin by not deburring it.
Oh yeah,
how sharp the edges are.
They can get really sharp. Well, even, you know, like I've got this gigantic dragon that Julie cuts, has the mold for.
Yeah, I've seen that.
These guys have horns on them. Those can be sharp too.
Yeah. So, you don't realize it either. So you're just demolding, and then you don't realize, if you've not got it perfectly domed, that there's going to be that sharp edge, and it's like a paper cut but worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's deeper than a paper cut.
Yeah. I'm guessing Karen from the Dragon's Cave has recently had an accident with
yeah, she did have a little fire.
Was it Alcolinks?
I'll let her say it.
Yeah. I've come close, but I've not had one yet.
I was, when I first got into resin, I was mixing up some colors, and I use metal flake from this company that it's an auto paint people that make stuff to go into auto paint, you know, for low riders and hot rods and different things.
Yeah,
really
like enamel-based paint. Or...
Yeah. Well, I use the metal flake, and I mix it into this little cup. I'm putting my hands up, and you can't even see them right there. You can't see my fingers. There's one of these little cups, and I'm just going, set her resin paper on fire.
Wow. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go and watch that one after.
I watched it, but I was gonna let her admit to it. I wasn't gonna throw her under the.
As in the thin paper, what Daniel Cooper's been doing with the EV resin.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow.
But I mixed it up, and I was mixing another color over here, and I thought, what is I'm seeing something out of the corner of my. It was smoking. It was having it was flash curing right there in the little cup, and I'm like, it doesn't look very good. And I went to pour it out, and it just sort of looked like I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Blob. It just sort of, you know, well, there's sound effects. I make sound effects. I sing. I do all kinds of stuff in my face. But it was coming out, and I'm like, well, that's not going. I've saved a couple of those little. Whoa, I got one right here. I was pouring it out, and it just stopped. Yeah. So I cut away the cup. So.
The only time I've had a flash cure, touch wood, so far, and again, I've pushed some one-to-one resins, I think, to the limit, where I've done like 14-ounce pours in one and things like that, which you probably shouldn't do. You should use a deep pour. But the only time I had a flash cure was the first time, and I felt really bad because I was actually reviewing a a fast cure resin from Just For You online. And actually since it's one of my favorite resins because you get cures in like 2.5 hours. But it was the first time I'd used it. And I wasn't even thinking properly. I was just mixing it up, put it in all my cups, ready to do a bloom. And then I went to pick it up and it was just solid. And I was like, okay, that's a flash cure.
That's a flash cure, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those things. It's funny when it happens, but I'm just glad it didn't happen on a bigger scale because you don't realize how hot things get. And it's like I was panicking when I did this because I did this indoors, and I thought there's no way I'm going to risk doing that in one go with 1-to-1 resin because it's just asking for a flash cure. So even though I did it in 3 layers, it was going up to about 150 degrees.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how warm resin actually gets when it cures.
Touch it. Touch the outside, you'll see.
You find out 30-degree burns.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would your advice be to people? Let's say they're new to the hobby and they're watching videos, they're getting involved in communities, but they're not getting the views yet on their videos. How do they sort of stay motivated? Because again, I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with, especially at the start with YouTube. You put, I don't know, an hour into a video, 3 hours into then editing that video, you put it out there and you get 10 to 20 views and you're like, was it worth all that effort?
Yeah. Stick to it. Find a niche that you can do. Like I like doing native flowers. And different things of that, and turtles, they're big around here. And
whales, I saw the blue whale as well, the blue whale planter you did.
Yeah, that was fun. But stick with it, come up with something that makes you different than somebody else. And people, and then this was from advice I got from a lady who, I don't know if you've ever seen these. People go around and mow lawns and they video themselves. They mow a lawn for free and they show their work. Or there's another guy that I actually watch. It's kind of interesting. He power washes sidewalks.
Wow.
And there's millions of people watch his stuff, but that lady that edits his videos, because he has a video editor, she said, start making use of shorts.
Yeah.
Or reels, if you're going to go that route, because you'll get a lot more views from those. Yeah. In fact, one of the biggest things, and I think is a stupid, well, for me it's stupid, it's super humorous. I took a video. I mowed the lawn. We have a type of grass that grows around here called a carpet grass, which sends out runners. You don't plant, well, you can plant it by seed, but it repropagates itself by sending out runners right at the level
like strawberry plants.
And but thick, and I've got 2 types of grasses in my yard. One of them I'm allergic to, and it's not native to South Texas. It's an invasive species. And the other one is one that I like. But if I start rolling around in the grass, I'm going to start itching because of that other grass that gets. But I took a short reel and I went out there and I just did a video and I got like 6,000 views on. I'm like,
that's crazy. And don't get me wrong, one of the things I use shorts for is to try and get more eyes on the channel, basically, so that hopefully some of those people that watch the shorts will be interested in the long form content because once you get monetized, you realize you could have tens of thousands of views on shorts and still be lucky to make $1. So you're never going to make money from them. But what I try and do is, I mean, I don't know if you've sort of seen on my channel, but I try and do 2 daily resin quotes. And that's all it is quotes with a little bit of a video in the background of something to do with resin. And they're just silly quotes that you can do with regards to resin art and resin artists. But every one of them's probably had anywhere between 600 and 1,000 views. And I've been doing 2 of those every day for the past 3 months. And it's a lot of work to put into it at the start to get them all scheduled and everything like that. But I think that draws people in knowing that, A, you're consistent. So there's going to be regular content, because I think that's one of the other things. The most frustrating thing for me is I'll speak to somebody and say, the channel's not growing. And I look and they've not posted a video for 2 months. That's why it's not growing.
Yeah.
If you like a channel, you want regular content, and at least with the shorts, because let's be honest, some of the resin videos, it might take you a full week to do a project.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to do 6 or 7 of those a week unless you're full time.
Like you, I don't know if you can see that table behind me. It's 7 feet long, so I can do something over here, and then or something right in the middle where I film, and then I just sort of move things over, and I can keep going. And then I have a heat mat out in the garage, which I really need now because it's super cold. So I can put things out there to cure, you know, while I'm working on something else, so I can have 3 or 4 projects going. But yeah, and some people, I have I have so many different interests, and I love to laugh. And man, I have so many different experiences. My parents were missionaries in Mexico, so I'm fluent in Spanish. I tried a couple videos in Spanish. I didn't get all that many more views, and I'm like, you know, if it's not going to really be reaching out, I can always translate for somebody if they need me to. But I have experiences in Mexico. I've climbed the pyramids, you know, in Tenochtitlan. I've been down into the Yucatan Peninsula where they have the Maya pyramids and stuff. I've been all the way up into Canada. I've got some cousins up there. I've been to Washington now, the state of Washington, because my kid lives there. But I haven't been across the pond, but I've been all over the America. I haven't been to South America. I've been to Central America. I've been to Guatemala. But I've had to learn how to build things. Oh, that was one thing. Talking about my resin adventure.
Yeah.
My first resin project, my dad did resin when I was a little kid. But they didn't have molds. So he would use a bowl, a plastic bowl, or a cottage cheese carton or something.
Yeah.
And so he allowed me to do a couple. But nothing was shiny. So you had to polish and polish and polish. But there's a silver dollar. That was 1971 when that was put in here. And it hasn't yellowed that much. But I mean, my dad polished and polished and polished that thing. And then in 1968, the Olympics were in Mexico City. And my dad got a couple Olympic memorial coins.
Wow.
It's hard to see through that, but I mean, that was not a round mold or a half sphere mold. He cut that and polished.
And sanded it all around.
Yeah.
So the closest I've got to that is my chocolate coin experiment, which still isn't moldy, by the way, guys. And that was 2 months old. There's not a single bit of mold on that. So I'll be interested to see over the years.
I've got a couple molds where I put candy in them, and somebody's like, "Oh, it's gonna rot." It's a year old. It still hadn't rotted. So, and then somebody said, "Your marshmallows are gonna look terrible," because I had the marshmallow frog.
Yeah.
The Froggy Friday last week. They're fine, you know, so far.
I think with things like
if they're sealed all the way, you know, they're not exposed to any more of the elements. I don't think anything's going to happen to them, but you never know.
No, I think, don't get me wrong, if you use like fresh produce, like fruit or something like that, then that's going to decay.
Yeah.
And it probably won't leak from the resin, but you'll just have a decayed mess in there after a period of time. But I think with things like sweets and candy, as you call it in the States, there's that many artificial preservatives in them and sugar, which is basically what they are. I don't think there's as much of a risk. I think, again, what I am thinking of doing just for the fun of it, and this is the weird way that my mind works, is trying a slice of bread and having one on the side and seeing how quickly that goes moldy, and then seeing if it gets the same element of mold when it's encased in resin. But it's just, again, it's something weird that I thought I haven't seen done, and it'd be interesting to see over a period of time.
It would be. There was a a cartoon, a cartoon strip that came out in the newspapers years ago called The Far Side. I don't know if any of you ever saw. Gary Larson was the artist, and his mind is like some pilots. Every once in a while, we're going to get this baby off the ground, talking about their airplane. And so he took that literal. There's this baby, and there's
Wow.
people on his back. I mean, crazy. So, and that type of humor just makes me go crazy. So I try and do some of that with within my resin things, you know. So like I made a mold of my toe, and I put it in a frog, so it was my toad. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, that Twinkie thing right there. I had my student when Twinkie, the original Twinkie company went bankrupt, and they sold their thing. And one of my students came in and said, "Sir, I bought you the last Twinkie." I don't know if it was the last Twinkie, but maybe the last Twinkie at the store.
Yeah.
It's a little cake in a wrapper, and there's so many preservatives in it. You know, people are always laughing. You take it out of the wrapper and just leave it there, it's not going to happen. I thought, well, I wonder how long it'll last if I leave it in the wrapper. So I hung it. My office was here, and my classroom was to the side, but they could see the little window in my office. So I hung it on the little crossbar in the window. It was there for 15 years.
Yeah.
It got hard, but it didn't get moldy.
The other thing I want to try, and this is because I've seen somebody not put it in resin, but just leave it, is McDonald's chicken nuggets.
Oh,
I've seen somebody, I think they did a video on it where they just left them for a year in the packet that they came in from McDonald's, and they still looked good enough to eat. So, it worries me how many preservatives go in there.
and is it real chicken?
Tasting resin, again, they'll probably just look as good as a chicken nugget forever.
Yeah.
And everybody sort of knows what a McDonald's chicken nugget looks like versus a normal homemade one. And I think that's, again, it's just, I get these weird ideas. Now, I don't do them all. I have to sort of hold myself back. Otherwise, I just have loads of different things encased in resin around the house. But again, I think some of those are the more interesting experiments. I saw one done with rice, and I think it's quite a popular experiment where they basically put the same rice in two different sort of resin boxes. One they put the word love on, and the other one hate. And the one with the word hate on went moldy a lot quicker than the one with the word love. And they repeated the experiment 3 or 4 times, and exactly the same thing happened every time.
Wow.
I suppose it shows the power of negativity in that response. But things like that, they amaze me, because there's no reason why one should go moldy quicker than the other and things like that. And it's just, again, it's not even science, because science would dictate that they should both decay at the same rate. But it's things like that, they really sort of get my mind going. But there's only so much I can do, because I don't think everybody would want to watch those. And interestingly, the only video I've had semi-negative comments on so far was the chocolate coin one, saying you shouldn't be putting food in resin. There's a lot of people out there where they're so against it.
Yeah, you know, and okay, well, you don't have to do it, but what's to stop me from trying it? You know,
that's why I've done it, so you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, somebody was saying that about the marshmallows. They were like, "Oh, it's gonna go rotten." Well, if it rots, it rots. You know, I mean, that's not you didn't buy it, so that's up to you.
Resin for me, it should be what you enjoy, and that's it. Whatever anybody else thinks, and don't get me wrong, it's a bit harder if you're doing it on YouTube, because people will have their views. People are entitled to their views, as far as I'm concerned. And I know there's a lot of trolls and haters out there and things like that. I haven't experienced them a lot yet, but they're welcome to put whatever comments they want. They're entitled to their views. But one thing I will say is I'm confident that if I enjoy the art that I'm producing, I'm going to be happy with it, regardless of what other people think. And I think as long as you can say at the end of a piece, you've done your all, and you've kind of got what you wanted to get, then you're happy with it. And that's the main thing. And it's also, with things like resin, you've got to understand, you can do the same project 50 times. That 51st time, it could still go wrong, even if you do it exactly the same way. And I think that's what's hard when you first get into it, and you see all these different techniques and go, oh, I can't get it right. I can't get it right. And sometimes it's just you using the wrong resin, because every resin's got different properties as well.
Yep.
And until you work with a few, you don't realize that. And especially if you're buying the cheaper ones from Temu, which, let's be honest, most of us getting into a new hobby, that's probably the first place they look.
Yep.
But some of those resins on there, I have had horrific results with. And my problem with that is it puts new people off the hobby for life.
Yeah.
Because they'll try that and they'll go, oh, I just can't do this. And then they'll give up on it. But actually, if they tried a good resin, they probably would have got the effect they wanted.
Yeah. Well, even if, you know, there's you're saying the 51st try is going to come out, you get something bad happen.
Yeah.
But even experienced resiners, there's a lady I watch well, she lives in Belgium, but she's German, Petra Gevracht. She does amazing stuff. She does some really cool blooms and stuff.
With the trays, I've seen some of those.
She's got molds of, you know, maybe there's 3 or 6 in the pattern, and she tries doing the exact same thing, and none of them come out the same, even though she's done the exact same thing on every single one. You know, it's fascinating the way that works. But
no, Laura, sorry, Laura, I've not heard back from that company. So basically the company I had real issues with, and I don't mind naming them because I'm always honest on my channel. It was Jiaochun Resin. Now, I used their standard resin when I first got into it because it was cheaper on Temu. And I had not too many issues with it, if I'm being honest. But I tried their fast cure, and it is unusable. It is literally unusable. And I did a video on it, and I actually sent the video to the manufacturer. And I said, look, this is what your resin is doing. Watch the video, and then come back to me and tell me that this is how it should be working. And I even did a 20-minute water bath and everything like that to prove that it wasn't sort of other conditions. And they just can't, but they haven't responded. And that was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. I tried, I don't get a lot of stuff from, I mean, I do get some molds and stuff from Temu, only because they're not available anywhere else.
Yeah.
Some different shapes and stuff. But I have bought some things from Julie Cuts and from Crafted Elements. And then there's, on Etsy, there's a couple people that I like, you know, they've got some really cool designs. And then sometimes there's nothing, and so I have to make my own, you know, and get over it. So, but I've always tried to, you know, Americans were the boastful type of people, you know, at least that's what people around the world picture us, and a lot of it is true. But you know, if we like the concept of made in the USA, so I try and get resins and stuff that are made here or in Canada, because, you know, they're our little brother to the north, even though it's a little bit bigger space than what we'd like to admit. But there is a company called Promise Epoxy, and it's in the United States, and they have a 1-hour cure resin.
Wow.
You can get it out of the mold in 1 hour. And I thought, I'm going to try and see if I can get a bloom to happen. Well, the first time I did it, I was mixing too many colors and stuff. It just seized. But then I thought, I'm going to do it with one color, and I'm going to get after it immediately. I'm not going to wait for temperature or anything. Second one actually came out pretty decent, you know. So you can, with a fast cure resin like that. You said that one from just for you
online. Hours. Yeah, they do an Apex fast cure, which is 2.5 hours.
Yeah, so I'm sure you can do it with that as well. I haven't tried my Let's Resin 4-hour yet, because I still got the 1-hour thing. I'm going through that. But, you know, Julie Cutt says she can do blooms. In fact, that's one of her favorite ones to use, because it goes quicker. It warms up quicker. So
and do you know what? I tend to play around my resins. I've got different resins that I prefer for different techniques. And the 2.5-hour fast cure, I love it, because if I'm doing something with layers, I can get 6 layers in a day if I time it right, rather than it taking 6 days, which is amazing. And actually, my first bloom with it was when I got my first flash cure. But then when I got used to it, I love using it for my mica blooms, because when you use mica powders in a bloom, it's always going to be slightly heavier. Yeah. And actually, because it cures faster, you tend to find, I think, it reduces the risk of blobs.
Yeah.
And that's what I found with that. I've not used the 4-hour fast cure yet from Let's Resin, but I've heard that that's very good with it as well. And And for me, sometimes because I do YouTube videos as well, it's about how much time I physically have. So I work full time. Then I'm trying to do at least 2 videos a week, as well as the 14 shorts a week that I'm sending out there at the minute. Then there's the editing on top of that. Then I've got to spend time with my girls, which as well, they need family time. So it's how to fit everything in. And actually, that's where sometimes these fast cure resins make it more possible to do that. If I only had the 24-hour cure resins, I probably wouldn't be able to do more than 1 video a week. But because I've got the faster cure ones as well, I can do 2 or 3 videos a week. Yeah.
I have noticed that
I did say the B word, Rin, you're right. Blob.
I have noticed that the fast cure resin, at least the 1-hour one, I can't put it in my
debubbler
vacuum chamber. It's I only have 10 minutes working time, and then it starts seizing, you know, and it gets gelatinous. I mean, and can't do anything with it. So if I put it and mix it up and put it in there for 3 minutes, even then, so I get lots of micro bubbles with that. But if I'm putting mica or some other type of coloring in there, it doesn't matter. And I have found, I'm sitting here looking over here to the side. I have some of my shimmering alcohol inks, which are really cool. And I have found that metallic alcohol ink, that Let's Resin has a set of those. I think there's some knockoffs as well. And then Bree Reese has these shimmering alcohol inks. Mix them. Don't just drop it on the top and let it spread out. Mix it in. You get some really cool results. I mean, it's like this cascading. It looks like it's in motion, and it's not, you know. So even after it's cured, it looks like oh, that is slick. So
that's what I love though with the different alcohol inks as well, and you can make your own as well. My first opal effect pendants that I did, I basically did it with chameleon powder and alcohol. So I made a chameleon powder alcohol ink, and I did that with UV resin. And for some reason, I sprayed hairspray on it as well, weirdly. And it came out with like a
Daniel Cooper,
a little bit like that, yeah. But it came out with like an opal effect, and it was really good. Whether I could replicate it or not is another matter. But I think it's just again, the thing I loved about that is I made those alcohol inks, so it was all down to me just mixing the micas. And more recently, I've made my own pigment pastes as well, and that was just because I basically got a big bag of micas from Temu. One of them exploded in the package, so I complained and got my money back. So the rest were all free. I washed them off, and then I've used those to make my own pigment paste as well. And it's quite a simple process, and it just gives you, I think, unique colors, what you've made that nobody else has got.
Yeah. Well, I found that company that I get the metallic inks from, they also make their own paint for cars and such. And they have this stuff called RTS. It's ready to spray. It comes in a little 2-ounce bottle, but it's super potent. You're supposed to mix it with a reducer and stuff before you put it on. Now, I wonder how that would work with resin. Well, first off, best be wearing a mask, because that stuff reeks. I mean, it's paint. You know, I don't know if you've ever smelled spray paint, but
the fumes.
But I mixed that. It's beautiful. You know, so it when it cured, it didn't do anything weird to the colorant or anything. It's just this really pretty color.
And that's one of the things that surprised me, because again, I've done a few crazy experiments, I think. And it's like my most recent one was vinegar. And I just thought, I've never seen anybody put white vinegar, distilled vinegar, in resin. And it created a slightly different celled effect to what you get with silicone oil. But the main thing I was curious about was whether it would cure, or whether that would affect the chemical sort of components in the resin. And it cured fine. And again, you probably shouldn't mix different chemicals in there and things like that. But it's fun to try it every now and then to see what results you get.
Yeah. Well, I've got a frog that's coming out this Friday.
Oh.
So preview time. I don't know if you've ever heard of soft bait, you know, that you can get you can put your own hooks in it and stuff.
Is that like the little like silverfish type thing?
Little worms, little fish, and different things of that sort. Well, I've got a frog that's got a fish in it.
Oh, wow.
It's one of those, it's a real wiggly type of thing. And I did tomorrow's video that's coming out. I put one in a sphere, and it did something very strange. The rubber that it's made out of leached something out, but it looks cool. But on that, I mean, it almost looks like a betta fish or something. How they have those real long, flowy fins. I'm like,
yeah.
Didn't mean for that to happen, but I'm glad it did.
They're like, I think I call them Siamese fighting fish. They're
Yeah,
the ones.
yep.
Yeah, which you can only keep one in a tank, otherwise they start fighting.
Yeah, they will get after it. Yeah, but
no,
I in that frog, it didn't cure part of the resin, so I ended up having to put some UV resin over the top of it to fix it to operate on it. But like I said, yeah, that's true. But the it's a cool effect, but not all things do mix with resin.
No, definitely not. And I tell you what, even with some of the effects, every mold you put it in, you get a different result. So it's like Petri effect. We all know in small little jewelry molds, you get those little sort of spores coming out and things like that. But as soon as you put it into something deep, it's like that dragon drip egg that I did.
Yeah,
you get a completely different effect, and that's like a little wormhole in the middle. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. And sometimes it's worth just playing around with different molds and seeing what different shapes you get. And it's the same with like 3D blooms. Every time you put them in a different shaped mold, whether that's because of the petals or whether they're circular or square, you get a slightly different shape of 3D bloom as well.
Yep. Yeah, I did that with the Petri effect. I did that in one of those big turtle molds that Miss Julie makes. And I think I did 6 layers because it's
deep,
3.5, 4 inches deep. So on one of the layers, I did the Petri effect, but I didn't swirl it. I just let it go.
Yeah.
And when they pulled it out of the mold, I'm like, oh, that looks cool. It looked like coral reef formations.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And I took it to a craft show at we call them winter Texans because they come down here for the winter. People from up north. In Florida, they call them snowbirds, but here in Texas, we call them winter Texans. But I went to a winter Texan park, and this lady, she kept coming back by the table, and she goes, "Now, how much is that?" And I said, "Well," and I had a bunch of other turtles, and she goes, "My daughter volunteers down at the island to make sure the seagulls don't eat all the little baby turtles before they make it back in the water." So she volunteers down there. So I want to get her some of these turtles so she bought a bunch of those little turtles that I had, but she also bought the big one for herself, with the one with the whole reef. Because my wife was like, "Oh, that is so cool," and she goes, "This is the best one you've made." And then I've made something else. That's the best one. So I keep coming up with the best one, but when I get this look from her, I know I should never do that again. The marshmallow one,
it was a no.
Why?
I think with the Petri as well, that's one of the things I love about that effect is depending on the depth of your mold and how many layers you put in, if you can avoid it sinking all the way to the end and blobbing, that's the key. I think to getting a good Petri, and you get those longer spores. It's absolutely mesmerizing, and it's almost like a whole new sort of world in there where you've got something what you don't see in any other art form. Yeah,
I did a pyramid. I had a student that she goes, "Sir, I want the rainbow in a pyramid." And I said, "Okay, so you want like each layer?" She goes, No. For Christmas, I want one color. For my birthday, I want another color. And we're going to do this for a couple of years. Well, she stopped after 4. But on the blue one, I did that Petri effect, but I had a layer about 1 inch deep.
Yeah.
And I let it drip in there. And it caused these, and it looks almost like if you've seen pictures of World War II when the atom bomb was dropped on Japan, and you see that big old, it looked like that. And I'm like, oh, and she's like, "How did you do that?" I don't know if I could ever recreate that. No. I don't know exactly what timing it was or anything else and I don't even remember the resin that I used at that time because I've tried different resins for different things. But yeah, it's amazing though. And I think
do you know what? With resin, that's the beauty of it. Even if you only get that piece once, you've created something. And I think every piece you create is unique. Nobody can get exactly the same piece unless they're doing something like a solid, maybe mica color or a solid pigment based color. Then you can duplicate it. But as soon as you mix one color with another, or one effect, you can never recreate it. And it's like when you do your frogs, you could pour exactly the same. Let's say you use 2 colors in 4 different frogs and have 4 completely different pieces. And I think that's the great thing is when you buy a piece of art that's been made in resin, nobody else has got that anywhere in the world. And I think that's what makes it truly unique.
Yeah, and people can try and recreate what I have done, but have fun, because it gets super hot here. I mean, like I said, 2 days ago it was 95. Which I think is like 32 in Celsius or centigrade, however you want to call it. But Laura, to answer your question, that you can still get that resin if you find it on Amazon, because they have background stock on it. She said the epoxy resin store doesn't make it anymore, but sometimes you can
still buy it.
Yeah, if you can find, like, there's one type of deep pour resin that I liked. The company just stopped making it, and I'm like, oh, this is good stuff, because you could pour 4 inches.
Yeah.
And this was before Let's Resin came out with their 4-inch stuff. And they stopped making it, but you still can find it on Amazon because they had leftover stock, so until they run
I'm
out.
expecting my first delivery of deep pour resin later this week. And depending on how much there is, because that's the biggest thing for me. I want to do big projects, don't get me wrong. I think everybody loves like massive river tables and things like that. But
I've got
you don't realize
15 inches long I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing a small table basically as my first deep pour project.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of, I've seen a couple of videos where people are using the real flowers in them and things like that, and I think they look amazing. But I'm thinking about creating the same effect with 3D bloom flowers.
Oh yeah, I did something similar to that because I like pansies. I really like pansies. And I wonder if I can recreate it, and I sort of did. So I have a it's not a deep pour, but it's a tray, a round tray, and I have 5 different pansies on there, smaller ones. But the problem is, because of the shape of the mold, the shape of the flower is going to warp, on the inside. It'll bloom wonderfully on the outside, but as it gets to it'll have a cone effect on there.
I had the same when I did that bouquet of flowers in a tray where I tried to get a full bouquet in. But what I'm thinking, the way around that is to do it in layers. So make a lot of smaller 3D blooms, put them all in with no backing, with clear resin for that first layer, and then you won't be able to see the separation between them. And then put another layer on the back, and then that way you should be able to get them all into one piece. Is what I'm thinking in my head. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But I just thought
it makes sense. Yeah.
I just thought it'd be interesting, and then I could do like a video title, "No blooms were hurt in the making of this table." just to be slightly different, but no, I think that's the great thing as well. Is there's always going to be something new to try in resin. There's never going to be a time, I don't think, when anybody's done all of it. There's always going to be something new on the market what people want to try.
As long as they keep inventing new types of resins, as long as they keep, and the people that are, I don't know who all the companies are. If there's just one company and they
make them all,
but they're having to stay on top of their game because there's a lot of us out there, and around here, there's what's the name of Stone Coat countertop resin. It's an expensive resin, but it's a really good one. But they've teamed up with this lady that lives about 250 miles from where I live, up near San Antonio. And they do countertops, and they do shower walls, and they do all of these things, and they come in and install them and stuff. Those are getting big here in the United States. I don't know about over in the UK or other
Well, I've
places.
had a few people ask me actually, strangely, on like I go on networking events with work and things like that. And me being me, I won't just talk about work. I'll talk about resin and sort of the art that I do. And there was this lady, and she's saying, "Oh, I've got these kitchen worktops that are old, boring laminate, chipped in places and things like that." And I was like, "Why don't you resin them? Because then they'll look brand new. You're not going to have to pay for expensive marble worktops or anything like that." And it can be quite later, I've seen on the worktops that they actually do. And that could probably cost less than £100 to resin the whole kitchen worktops. And the new worktops would cost like 2,000 or 3,000. And then I think there's that fear factor of what if it goes wrong?
Yeah. If it goes wrong, what do you've spent 100, well, like you said, £100, but you know, and they even have this this company that Stone Coat Countertop has this, oh, I can't even remember the name of it, but I put it on my countertop that I did in here with the Ocean Wave, because my countertop is an Ocean Wave, you know, the whole thing is kind of cool. And so it sort of flows down into the sink, which is kind of cool. But you put this sealer stuff over the top. It is not a resin, but it seals the resin to where you can actually start using it within a day rather than a week. And it prevents scratches. It dulls the shininess a little bit. It's still shiny, but you know, it protects it so that it doesn't scrape. And you can put, I haven't done this yet, you can put a pot of coffee on there and shouldn't do any damage to it. I just don't want to ruin it. So I mean, I could just put another layer over the top, you know, but I'd rather not have to if I don't have to. But
yeah, no, it's amazing. And just because we're coming up, well, we've gone over the hour. Can you believe it?
Wow.
But obviously, guys, if you're not subscribed to Tim's channel, Bass Resonator, make sure you do as well. If you like bass music as well, I've heard a few tunes sung by Tim in a couple of the videos.
Yeah, and I even have
personality though.
Yeah, I have a channel on SoundCloud where I do singing. Most of it's for what I did for our church during COVID, you know, when we were shut down. Oh, that's not even fair. Being a music teacher, I was exposed to all, I really love Baroque music. I have a really good air control, breath control. So I can do, I don't know if you know what a melisma is, but the long runs.
Right.
Like from Handel's Messiah. I love those solos in there. I have done, that was one of mine. Yep, Forever in Blue Jeans. I had the words wrong for 40 years. 40 years. But I did get to perform Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and I was the bass soloist, and that was such a blast.
Really?
Yeah. So Baroque.
I think to close us out, Tim, if you're comfortable, you might have to give us a bit of a song, looking at what everyone's asking for.
Okay.
Only if you're comfortable, though.
You may have to turn your speakers down.
Guys, if it's your first time to the channel, or obviously if you're watching this Q&A live for the first time, they happen every Tuesday, 8 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 2 p.m. Texas time. If you're watching in Texas.
Central time, yeah, it's 2 p.m.
And do you know what? If you're a resin creator, or if you've got a YouTube channel, anything to do with resin, and you want to come on as a guest, let me know. I'm in the Crafty YouTubers Discord. That's probably the easiest way to let me know, or send me an email in description and we'll get you on. We have got Lisa coming on next week from Break the Mold Resin Art, who always supports a lot of his artists. She's always in all of the chats and everything like that. And I believe she's starting to do a couple of videos now. So again, it'd be great to get her on. Everybody get to meet her as well. But make sure you, as well as following this channel, follow Tim's channel as well. And let's grow together. And Tim, if you want to finish this one off with a bit of a song, let's go. A
little bit of Beethoven. O Freude, nicht diese Töne. And then it goes on. Freude schöner Götter Funken Tochter aus Elysium, and so forth. Yeah. So I can do that, or Forever in Blue Jeans, babe. Yeah. So.
No, it's brilliant, you know, and do you know what's great? It's great. You can clearly see that you enjoy it, you know, and I think you can see when somebody's passionate about something. And it's the same with your resin work as well. It comes across in the videos, and as long as you're passionate about something, and you have to share it with the world, it's brilliant. So well done to you.
That was one of the things I wanted to use, bass resonator, because I resonate in the bass realm. But if you look up bass resonator with an O, not an I, you'll find some guy that plays bass guitar. It's not me.
I did
so I went with getting my resin art in there. So yeah. So,
but now everybody's saying well done. It was amazing, and they love you, Tim. So there you go. I think it's been brilliant. And Wicked Geeks Creations wants me to shoot them the Discord link as well. So yeah, that's fine. I can do that. I can send you a message with it on as well. But it's basically, it's just the Crafty YouTubers United, I think, is the channel that we're all in together. And it's a very supportive Discord as well. There's always people in there talking and willing to help people out. So get yourselves in there as well.
Yeah, how to edit videos and such. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah, but no, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on as a guest. I feel like I know you now. So that's one of the things I love about doing this as well. It's just getting to know people in the community, because often in resin videos, this is all you see. Two hands doing that, and you don't know the person behind the hands.
Like Miss Julie. Good day, guys.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's all you see, isn't it? And I think that's why I wanted to do these, so that gradually we all get to know the whole community. Hopefully at some point, who knows, we can all meet up. I know that in the UK, there's going to be Makers Central, which is like the big event that a few of us are planning to hopefully go to this year. You never know, it might be a reason for you to come across to the UK.
Where is that located? Where in the UK is that?
Birmingham NEC.
Okay.
Or Birmingham.
I wanted to go to Cornwall area because I really like the show Doc Martin.
Oh, right. Okay.
I have to use subtitles because I don't understand a word they're saying half the time, and I'm like, "What is that?" You know, the idiosyncrasies of vernacular, local vernacular. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Of course, I have my own from down here, so that's true.
There you go, Tim. There's a question. Do airlines give freebies?
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
It's worth asking the question. You never know.
The worst they can say is no, but I hate that rejection.
Yeah, I think Cornwall is probably about a 4.5 hour drive from Birmingham. Birmingham's more Midlands, but no, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? And obviously, let's keep in touch. And thank you to the whole audience as well. It's been great having you on. Another couple of minutes. If anyone's got any final questions for Tim, now is your time.
Ooh. I did that.
People,
I did the background. I know my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was from. Her parents were from Ireland, and so I've done that ancestry type of thing. And sometime I'd like to go over there too, if that would ever happen. I don't know.
Well, I've never been to Ireland yet, and I'm only literally just across that little channel, so I need to go there as well at some point. Get a proper pint of Guinness, I think, just to see what it tastes like properly. But no, we have got one more question. So the final question: which song always makes you dance?
Oh, I sing a song for my granddaughter. She's 2, but when she'd come over to the house, because she lives here, well, she lives about 15 minutes away. And I sing this song, and she loves dancing with me on it. And I say, "Baby Emma's in the house right now, and we're gonna have a good time." So yeah, that one's a good dance song. So party
brings
time.
Good memories, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, my youngest, she's 6, and I still sort of adapt a nursery rhyme just for her when I put her to bed, and she doesn't get fed up of it. She absolutely loves it, and I think it just makes her happy. I think children love to hear singing and music and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a good singer in any way, shape, or form. I used to be okay before my voice broke, and I could do like good songs in the shower, I always say, because the acoustics are better. But I've never been a good singer. But I love music. I've always found that if you're going through a tough time, or something's not going right, a bit like resin, you can just tap into music and almost be in a different world and be able to focus on that. And I think there's so many great artists out there as well in so many different genres of music as well. And I can't pick just one genre that I like. It all depends on what mood I'm in. It's like I like everything from, if I'm being honest, mainly dance music, David Guetta, Calvin Harris, upbeat things. And I think that's just because I'm part of the 5 a.m. club and it gets me awake in the morning. But I also like, I've been listening a lot to acoustics and things like that, and sort of adaptions that people have done of other people's songs. And I think you can really tell when there's that emotion in music, and some songs you'll just listen to it and you get goosebumps. And that's when you're like,
you need to watch. There's a guitar player just came on the scene a few years ago. His name is Marcin, Marcin. Oh my word, that guy does stuff on guitar you never thought possible.
Wow.
And it's just amazing. On an acoustic guitar. It's crazy.
But it's amazing. I've got Apple Music because it's just the easiest way to access most everything that's out there at the minute. And I often just listen to acoustic hits. I'll listen to that for a couple of hours. And don't get me wrong, sometimes if you have too many of the sad songs in a row, it has the wrong effect. But if you listen to a few, that it shows you the real singers out there, the ones that are actually using their voice and that aren't just miming to a microphone, which, let's be honest, in this day and age, a lot do.
Or using auto-tune.
Or AI. Let's be honest, on my channel, I've created a little music track, all with AI. It's not my voice. It's some random voice that AI's generated. It's amazing. And don't get me wrong, I think technology is amazing, but actually nothing beats a real human. And that's in every walk of life for me. And I think that's where we're all still safe, that AI is not going to take over the world. It's not going to be Skynet, the Terminator, or anything like that. Because I think this still needs a human touch. You can tell the difference. And it's like in my day job with recruitment, for example, AI is so prevalent in people's CVs, you would not believe it. What people don't realize is as soon as I look at a CV, I can tell if it's been written by ChatGPT or if they've actually done it themselves. And if they've put the effort in themselves as a human, it puts them in the top of the list. And this is where I think there's a danger. And it's the same with music, because, again, a lot of the songs in the charts at the minute, I'm pretty confident are being partially generated by AI.
Well, but it's easier. I have some software that I do because I've been doing video editing for years before I ever got to resin. Just part of my job with choir and stuff and producing our videos. But they also have audio production stuff that you can get little. You can record a little excerpt and have it looped and just. So it's not so much AI, but now they even have AI generators in that software so that it'll take your loop and just put it wherever it thinks it. It's like, wow, I wish I could have done that on my own, but I could have, but now that it's doing it for me. So,
but I still like going back to music, I suppose, before I was born. And it sounds strange, but it is, because I remember it from my childhood growing up, and my mum and dad would listen to, I don't know, random stuff like the Carpenters, for example, and stuff like that, which, again, it's real music if you listen to it. If you listen to the early Bob Marley stuff and things like that, that's amazing, the vocals and things like that, which probably will never be replicated again. And even like Queen, Freddie Mercury, Phil Collins, all of those sort of old, I suppose they were bigger in the 80s, 70s and 80s music. It's amazing because to me, that was real music. And don't get me wrong, I love dance music just because it's very upbeat, it's very dancey. And I still think I'm a 21-year-old on the dance floor, even though I'm 21 for the 21st time. But I love that kind of music. But I think music, if you find the right song, there's a song in every genre that you're going to enjoy. And it's the same with like musicals and things like that. I'm not massively into them, but I thoroughly enjoy them. I couldn't watch them every day because that's not the sort of thing that I would do every day. But again, when you see the passion from the right people, and musicians, singers, actors, whatever it be, it really comes across. And I think that's what is so different to AI and can never be replicated by a machine. So there's hope for us yet, I think.
Yep. Well, they've gone through actors strikes, musician strikes and stuff, and then the musicals are off for a while, and it's not the same. You're like, oh, I'm missing something. So yeah.
There we go. I'm speaking Laura's music language apparently, but there we go. It's just stuff I remember from a kid, and I suppose that takes you back. And I think that's one of the great things with music is you can hear a song all of a sudden that you've not heard for years, and it takes you back 20, 30 years to a different point in your life, and it makes you remember things. And I suppose as I'm getting older now as well, sometimes that's a good thing to be able to reflect and remember good times from the past as well.
Yeah, you go back, for me, going back into I wasn't alive in the 50s, but the music from the 50s and the 60s, where you have those groups like the Temptations or different things, man, that stuff, and that was real music too. You had actual quartet going on. The Letterman, they had some really good songs out there in the 60s and stuff, and yeah, it's
obviously the Beatles. Let's not forget them. They had some amazing songs about Elvis. D saying in the chat as well. Ramstein, that's another one. So there's lots.
Yeah. And even the obscure stuff by Queen, Seaside Rendezvous. Woo!
I've not heard that one.
Oh, that was a wild one. I don't know what they were on when they sang that one, but
but that's also the weird thing. If you look into some of the songs as well, and again, I'm one of those geeks that likes to research things. So if I hear a song that I like, I'll try and look into the meaning of it. And some of the songs don't have the meaning that you think they do or anything like that. And even more recent songs, it's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure this will make everybody in chat laugh, but when Watermelon Sugar High came out, I didn't know what that was about until somebody in my office told me, and I was like, okay, that's different.
I don't even know if I know what I have not heard that.
Oh, you'll have to Google it.
Okay.
It'll be
now, there was a really weird song that the actor Richard Harris actually sang it. MacArthur's Park. Someone baked the cake out, left the cake out in the rain. I don't think that I can take it because it took so long to bake it, and I'll never have the recipe again. Oh no. It's like, who? Why? But it was this huge song in the 60s, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to become the first Dumbledore.
Me and Lisa were having a good joke about some Michael Jackson songs the other day on Discord. And I was saying that I actually really liked a lot of his music before he went a little bit strange. Because I think, let's be honest, he did go a little bit strange toward the end of his career. But some of his early stuff I thought was brilliant. And it's just...
I love Jackson 5.
Yeah, definitely. Jackson 5. And Ben was one of my favorite songs, what he did in Jackson 5.
Yeah,
and
I like that a lot. I actually did an arrangement of that for my choir.
Really?
Arrangement of Ben, yeah.
And I think that was about his dead rat, if memory serves correct.
Yep. It was a theme song for a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's amazing. And I think songs like that, they'll be around forever in different ways. And I think that's the beauty of good music. Will never die. It'll always be there because people will always remember it or want to be reminded of it. And I think that's one of the great things.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently I make Lisa laugh so much. So there we go. Well, next week will be a funny live then, Lisa. But there we go, because you're going to be on the camera.
There you go.
But no, we've been here for an hour and a half. So again, everyone, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to both channels as well. Like it, share it, put something in comments. It all helps us all grow. And let's keep supporting each other. But thank you, everyone, for being here, especially you, Tim, as well, all the way from Texas. It's the first person from the States we've had on. So you will always have that accolade. And it's been great getting to know you as well. And I'll see you guys all on the next one. But thanks a lot. Bye from me.
Yep.